Hi, my name is Judge, and you are watching part number 6 of 7 of our 135 card Murder at Nathria Castle Arena review. Let's dive right into our very first card. 8 mana, 7/9, Party Crasher, Epic Neutral Minion with the battle cry. Choose an enemy minion, throw a random minion from your hand at it, and then they will bonk into each other. So, 8 mana, 7/9 is pretty slow. You get an extra minion out of your hand, decent, still costs you 2 cards, and you get a little bit of removal. Okay, interesting. So, the problem with this card is that usually your average minion is going to be a 2 or 3 drop. And by the time you get to turn 8, you've played all your curve. So unless you're holding on to an unbelievably strong 10, this card is just not going to be good. This seems like it's trying to fit into that like constructed big druid archetype, but it's not going to be consistent enough for Arena. Not going to say that you can't get a good Party Crasher deck and maybe you've got like 3 10s and you've got the ramp 4 drop for druid and you can turn it into some sort of, pseudo-constructed ramp druid. Great, that'd be super cool. But on average, this is generally just not going to be good. It's going to be slow. It's not going to throw good minions, and it's going to be inconsistent. So I think overall you avoid this, but look out for those instances where it's going to be really fun and really cool. Next, we have a 3 mana, 3/4 Suspicious Pirate. Battlecry, discover a weapon. If your opponent guesses your choice, they get a copy. We've been over a couple suspicious cards already in this review so far, and they are super fun. Both of them 1 costs, and we know that your opponent has to wait until their turn to guess, so if you play the weapon right away, they're going to know what it is. This seems great. 3 mana, 3/4 is great stats, it's good on curve, and let the mind games begin. Once again, get to choose, are you going to take the best weapon, the worst weapon? Weapons are a little tougher to play around what your opponent needs as like minions or spells, because sometimes you can take a particular AoE you need when your opponent doesn't need it, and you can make yours better than the opponent's. You can still do it a little bit by taking, say, a 5/2 weapon is going to be better if you're pushing face more than they are and you're looking to kill them. Sometimes there's going to be a little bit of leeway there, but generally it's just a little bit of more mind games rather than exactly what you need for this one. And that's super fun, and I'm a big fan. I think this one's going to be particularly strong over just fun. I think this is a really, really great card. And I'm a big fan of these suspicious cards from Warrior, Mage, and Priest. Very nice. Next, we get a weapon from Warrior called Injected Axe. 3 mana, 2/3. After your hero attacks, give your damaged minions +1/+1, or infuse +2/+2 instead. I think this card is insane. I think this card is absolutely insane. So 3 mana, 2/3 isn't even bad on its own. Just a 3 mana, 2/3 weapon. That's fine. Opposite stat, 3/2 is a Fiery War Axe. You look at Stormforged Axe with Overload 1. This is that, but so much better. Admittedly, getting a lot of stats from this is going to be difficult. You're looking to play your location, maybe, and get some extra buffs there. If you get the Infuse off, you can, make a value trade, and even just getting a single +2/+2 will make this card worth it. I think because you don't have to get too many stats from this for it to be great, this is going to just be an exquisite weapon. It's going to be fantastic. And like I said, 3 mana, 2/3 weapon on its own is not even that bad. So you just add anywhere between +2/+2, +3/+3 to +6/6, +8/8 onto this, it becomes extremely good. I think this is a very strong weapon. Next, we have a legendary 7 mana, 7/7, the Countess Paladin card. Battlecry, if your deck has no neutral cards, add 3 legendary invitations to your hand. Now, legendary invitations are 3 mana spells that, when you play them, you get to discover a legendary minion from another class and set its cost to 0. Absolutely insane. Very, very cool. Unfortunately, there's never going to be a spot where you don't have neutral cards in your deck unless you're in Fatigue or very close to it. Another problem is, now this one I haven't gotten confirmation on like some of the other ones, but I doubt that this is going to make its way into the arena because none of the other strictly pure Paladin cards have been allowed in Arena. The Zealot, giving you the weapon, Urel, have been banned. So I'm going to guess this is going to meet the same fate. However, that doesn't mean you can't play your 3 mana 2/4 Taunt, our new Discover a Paladin card, and get the Countess. It's usually, again, going to be useless. But hey, if you're, if you're in fatigue, if you played a Wormrest Purifier, maybe there's going to be some times where you can discover this, play it, and actually get a cool effect. In general, it would be trash, and it's probably going to be banned. But, who knows? One can dream. One can dream. Next up, we have Murlocula, a 4-mana 3/4 lifesteal. Infuse, this costs 0. It is a Murloc, and I think this card is very good. So we remember the 0-mana 5/5, formerly a 7-mana 5/5, called Corridor Creeper. That's the one. And it was nerfed to a 2/5 because it was so strong, and it was being played for 0 mana all the time. And it needed Infuse 7 to be 0 mana. Of course, you got the discount over time, so you could play it for 2 or 1. You can't do that with this card. But I don't think Infuse 4 is too much of an ask to play a 0 mana 3/4 lifesteal. I think this fits naturally into aggro decks, into a Hunter, or into a Zoolock would be a really good addition for this. And honestly, a 4 mana 3/4 lifesteal isn't the worst stat line. It's bad, it's not great, but it's not the worst. It's still playable. I think that the 0 cost potential is worth picking this up for. Very similar, I'd put this like similar quality to like a 2/5 Corridor Creeper, where in aggro decks it's going to be good. In not aggro decks, it's still maybe going to be fine, but maybe not insane. Next, we get a Holy Spell from Priest, a 1-mana spell. The Light! It burns! Deal damage to a minion equal to its attack. That's really good. This reminds me a lot, actually, of Hit It Very Hard, because it's cheap, and it can deal with almost anything. Of course, there's going to be low attack, high health minions it's going to be weak against, but this to clear a 6/6 or an 8/8 is crazy. It reminds me of Shadow or Death a little bit as well. Another piece of really solid removal. Priest, if they get discovers, they can come into this to remove a big threat. Seems like a very, very strong piece of removal, much like Hit It Very Hard. Next, we have a 2-mana 1/4 Anima Extractor. Whenever a friendly minion takes damage, give a random minion in your hand +1/+1. I really like this card. 2-mana 1/4. It's technically 5 stats for 2 mana, which is what you're asking for from a 2-drop, but it's a little bit awkwardly distributed, so it's not a great stat line, but it's playable. And then the effect with that high health is not so insane that it's going to just break the game upon being played, but it's good enough to make that worth playing a 1/4. You get 2 hits with this, great. You play this on turn 5 with a 3 and a 2, and you hit 2 other minions in, awesome. The high rolls aren't going to be like so amazing, because once you're high rolling, you're already pretty late into the game. But it's strong. I think this is just a really solid 2-drop, and I'm a big fan of its design. Next, we have a 2-mana 2/3 neutral Battlecry. The next secret you play costs 0. Anonymous Informant. 0 mana secret is, that's fine. It's a River Croc, which has gotten worse and worse over the years, but still very playable as a 2/3. And the effect is fine. Nothing. Just it's a 2-mana 2/3 with a bit of an upside. Great. If you're a mage and you get your 0 mana Oasis ally or something, awesome. Your 0 mana, maybe even Mirror for some extra stats. Great. Going to be obviously better in mage and some other classes. Seems solid, but not like crazy. Even in mage, you still have to play 2 cards for it, so you're thinning out your hand. And unless you have other secret synergies or other refresh right away, it's going to be strong, but not busted. Solid card. Next, we get another tool for Totem Shaman, which I'm definitely a big fan of. 2-mana 1/3 weapon, Carving Chisel. After your hero attacks, summon a random basic totem. 2 mana, 3 random basic totems, 3 damage. That seems, of course, like you want totem synergy to make it absolutely optimal. You have that legendary, then this is going to be really good as you're summoning 2/2s. Even on its own, I think that those basic totems, they're stats. They do stuff. Healing totem, strength totem, very strong. I think that's a fine weapon. It's nothing crazy, and of course you're going to want maybe a totemic, something that splits it, maybe any sort of totem synergy. But I don't think it's actually that bad on its own, even though basic totems can be a bit underwhelming. 2-mana 1/3 weapon. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay on its own. And great if you have synergy. Next, we have Chatty Bartender, 4-mana 4/4 at the end of your turn. If you control a secret, deal 2 damage to all enemies. It's a mage card. And this reminds me a lot of Arcane Flak Mage, where it's not that good on its own without secrets. It's kind of like you don't really want it, but it's playable. But if you have secrets, then it becomes absolutely insane. I would say Arcane Flak Mage is a little more insane than this when you have secrets, because you can really get it for cheap and consistently, where this is a bit more expensive to play both in the same turn. So the idea is you play a secret that maybe they can't interact with, like maybe you play Oasis on an empty board, and then you play Chatty Bartender for a consecration, and that could be awesome. But the setup is particular and a little bit inconsistent, and I would say that unlike Arcane Flak Mage, this is not really fine stats for 4 mana. So I think this is going to be generally weak. Something like picking up a Cloud Elemental, deal 6 damage if you own Secret. It's going to be not good if you miss the secrets, and usually not worth going for. But if you hit 3 secrets, maybe it's going to be great in your deck. So a little bit of an interesting synergy card there. Next we have, oh my, that is a large spell for Hunter here. Collateral Damage. 8 mana spell for Hunter. Deal 6 damage to 3 random enemy minions. Excess damage hits the enemy hero. Oh my. 8 mana, deal 15 damage. It's a Pyroblast. That's removal. Yeah. This is incredible. This card's insane. There are 3 fireballs attached to an 8 mana card. That's insane. This card's nuts. This card reminds me of Nagrand Slam. It's just a huge, fantastic finisher. If there are small minions, you're dealing a ton of face damage, which by turn 8, you're probably pushing for the kill. If it's not going to kill them, it means you're dealing with a pretty heavy board that you need to be dealing with. This card's fantastic. On the same wavelength as Nagrand Slam for sure. Really, really strong. There's a lot of gear. That's going to be terrifying playing Hunter. All these wild seeds, this finisher, holy moly. Great card. Next, Conqueror's Banner. 2 mana, reveal a card from each player's deck 3 times, draw any of yours that cost more. I think this card is going to be very bad. Obviously, the best case scenario is 2 mana, draw 3, which is great. 2 mana, draw 2 is also good, but winning a joust in Arena is not very likely. In fact, usually the curve outs are roughly similar. If you have a bit of a heavier deck, then it becomes closer to 50-50. Remember, getting a tie is not going to cut it, which makes the odds a lot worse. So I'd say this is most of the time going to be a 2 mana draw one, and that sucks. So I think this card generally will be bad. Even trying to make it work, it's going to be often a 1 or a 2. Next up, we have a 2 mana 1/4 for Warrior as well. Crazed Wretch has +2 attack and charge, well, damage. Pretty good synergy with the location where you can ping this and give it +4 attack and then hit 5 to the face. Awesome. But a little bit particular, a little bit synergistic for Arena, and not even... If you're doing that synergy, you need a whole lot of other synergies that are aggressive, and that's just not going to happen. I think this card is not a good 2 mana 1/4, unlike the last one we saw. And even when you make a value trade and you get that attack, it might not happen, and it's probably just going to be pinged off anyway. So the fact that this doesn't have Rush itself is a big deal, and I don't think it's going to be any good. 3 mana 0/6 next. Interesting stat line. Creepy Painting. After another minion dies, become a copy of it. We've seen an effect like this before when a minion is played, and that card sucked. And I think this card also sucks. So this is nowhere close to a curve play. You're going to just get a 2-drop, a weak 1-drop that your opponent can control. The way you use this card, of course, is to play it on turn 6 or 7, right when you're about to... You know what? Am I coming around on this, actually? Am I talking myself into this? After another minion dies, become a copy of it. So if you're about to kill a 6-drop and you just slam this down and then kill it, it becomes that 6-drop. How consistent is that? I'm changing my mind. This card is fine. This card is fine. It's a little inconsistent. It's a little tough because most minions are not large. And it's going to take up a spot in your hand. Kind of reminds me now of Faceless Manipulator, but less consistent, but with a potential high-risk Faceless. Okay, I've decided. I think this card is a high-risk Faceless Manipulator. Takes up spot in your hand. Probably not going to be as good as you want it to be, but better than I was initially giving it credit for. Interesting. It's just you gotta hope your opponent plays something good, because you're not gonna kill off your own thing. It's gonna be a little awkward, but maybe actually a fine mid to late game card. Looking forward to trying this, actually. It's tough to predict this one. Let's take a look at the next one. 8 mana criminal lineup. Choose a friendly minion, summon 3 copies of it. So this looks very similar to the old Spellstone, which required a lot more setup than this. And much like the card we just looked at, Creepy Painting, another one that's going to be like really potentially rewarding, but maybe difficult to set up because you can't play a minion and then play the criminal lineup. That's not going to work because you're not just going to copy 3 2-drops normally. Not most 2-drops, you won't. So I think this card is just going to be a little worse than people think because of its lack of consistency. But when you've got that 6-drop or 7-drop and then all of a sudden you slam this and get a ton of stats, it's going to be like a grand finale finisher in some cases, right? Absolutely insane. Big high roll, low roll card. That tends to not make for the greatest arena cards, but going for it can be huge. Having the right deck for it can be huge. And I think that even hitting only 4-drops or something or 3-drops can be strong. So I think this card will be good to great, but maybe not quite as insane as people think. Overload 2 is kind of nothing at that point. Next we have 2 mana 1/4. A lot of 2 mana 1/4s today. Crooked Cook. At the end of your turn, if you dealt 3 or more damage to the enemy hero, draw a card. This reminds me a lot of the 2 mana 1/4. If you're floating mana at the end of the turn, draw a card. It's not a threat on its own. It's got a very good effect if left undealt with. I don't think this is ever nearly a curve card. This is something you play maybe on turn 6 with a 4-drop as you hit 3 to the face. And that's pretty good. It kind of protects your board because they have to deal with this right away, or else you're just getting so much value. I think this card is going to be strong. I think it's going to be a strong mid-range card. Nothing too crazy. Little bit of cycle. Maybe like a 2 mana draw. 2 mana 1/4 draw 1 or 2 with a bit of a pseudo taunt on it, which is good. Which is good value for that amount of mana. It's just not an early play. So you're drafting this in the spot of like a 6 or 7, and then like putting a few more 4s and 5s in. Next up, we've got Crud Caretaker, 4 mana 1/1 battle cry, summon a 3/5 elemental with taunt. Senjin Shieldmaster is very jealous of this, as it just gets an extra 1/1 body. So the question is, would Senjin Shieldmaster be good if it had a 1/1 beside it? And the answer to that actually is yes, for sure. If you give Senjin +1/+1, it becomes really good. And I think this card is really good. It's a 4 mana 4/6. That's very solid. Split bodies, not too bad at all. Despite, 1 mana AoE, it'll be rough against this, but it's a good card. I'm going to be taking this as just a very consistent 4-drop. I think people underrate tokens quite a lot, and I think that would happen if you underrated this card. It's solid. Next, we have 6 mana, 7/6 Druid card, Death Blossom Whomper. Battlecry, draw a Deathrattle minion and gain its Deathrattle. So here's a Deathrattle Druid card. We were wondering when we saw the maze location what was going on with it, and I think this card has great synergy with the maze location. Very cool. Reminds me a lot of the, I suppose, the Oozling, but this actually draws the Deathrattle minion, which is a big deal, drawing an extra card. Also reminds me a little bit of Coffin Crasher, because Coffin Crasher was a card that was fine stats. Well, maybe a little less than this, but like fine stats, -1/-1 on this, with a big potential upside. But if you don't hit the upside, it's kind of like, eh. I think it's actually definitely a much better Coffin Crasher because its effect is more consistent. Obviously, it depends on what death rattles you have. I think it's a good card. Adding a draw card to this, 1 more mana for a big old whelp, but you get 2 +2/+1 and potentially a solid death rattle. Seems very, very good. Nice card. Let's move on to a 3 mana 2/3 Dinner Performer. Battlecry, summon a random minion from your deck that you can afford to play. It is a neutral, it is common, and I think this card is going to be bad. So, if you can afford to play a card, then, this is just a 3 mana 2/3 draw a card. It's a 3 mana 2/3 draw card that doesn't really even fill in curve. Puts it directly in play. Summon a random minion from your deck that you can afford to play. Sorry, I stand corrected. I was imagining it was using all of your mana. No, you just summon a minion that you can afford to play. So it's going to be a 3-mana... Okay, interesting. Is it going to be any better? I guess on average... So you play this as a mid to late game card. You never play this on curve. You usually don't play it on 4. Is this best on 5? What if you played a 5-mana... But it's 3 mana. Yeah, I gotta remember, you keep your mana. It's a 3 mana, potentially, call it a 4/6 on turn 5 with another 2-drop. Interesting. Okay, so I was thinking that it ate up the rest of your mana when you played it too, because that just kind of made intuitional sense. But no, it doesn't, making this actually a really, really solid card for the mid-game. 3 mana to summon on average a 4/6 and still have mana to play in the mid-game. That's strong. And then there's only high rolls from there. You can low roll and hit a 1-drop, great, but on average, this is going to be just a solid mid-range play. Much like Creepy Painting, garbage on curve, terrible on curve, but actually going to be solid in the mid-game. I completely misunderstood this card. That's going to be nice. Play this on 10, play your 3-mana 9/9, and then throw down another 7-drop is the obvious dream. But on average, it's just going to be a highly statted 3 alongside another 4-drop on like turn 7. And that's pretty good. Not bad at all. Lastly, we hit up a Demon Hunter card, 0 mana, always scary. Dispose of Evidence. Give your hero +3 attack this turn. That's crazy for 0 mana. But choose a card in your hand to shuffle into your deck. And we saw this effect before on the 2-mana 4/4. We talked about this effect. And this effect is very bad. So I think this card, standalone, is bad. It is not good at all. But it's interesting because now we've seen cards like Magnifying Glaive and the legendary 7/7 that are liking to have few cards. So if there's some sort of synergy there, maybe this is going to fit. But on its own, without those synergies, without Magnifying Glaive, this is going to be very, very bad. I don't see it working even with the Glaive in a singular deck. Pretty sure we're going to want to avoid this one. Alright everybody, thank you very much for watching. As usual, please remember to hit that thumbs up button. If you haven't already, slam that subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below what mistakes I've made. What do you think about these cards? Anything you're excited for, nervous for? I want to hear it. I will see you for the final part in the next video. Thanks for watching.